Hello and welcome. I am Tiberius, and today I am continuing my interview series about getting into cybersecurity. I'm joined by Rosie Anderson, who has 20 years of experience in tech and cyber recruitment, as well as being the founder of B-Sides Lancashire and the co-director of B-Sides Leeds. She now works as the head of strategic solutions at that security company. Rosie, welcome to my channel, and thank you for being here to share your knowledge and experiences with us.
Thank you for having me. I have to say, I'm an ex-recruiter, so don't boo and hiss, because I know recruiters have got a bad name. I promise I was one of the good girls.
I'm sure you were. All good. Let's dive right in with a question that a lot of people ask, and I feel like not too many people really have the ability to answer. It's often been said there's a global shortage of cybersecurity professionals, and I've seen orgs say there are as many as 10 million workers needed. In your opinion, is there really that much of a skills shortage? And if not, where do these numbers even come from?
So it is a bullshit start, I'll be honest, and I'll start swearing early, as it's just a sign of what's to come, I'm sure.
All good.
So there is not a skills shortage. There's not a shortage of people who want to get into the industry at all. And all my experience is from the UK, so I will just caveat that. There is an expectation gap between what businesses want and what's available on the market. What typically happens, and from a recruiter background, which was what I was doing before, what typically happens is when people are hiring talent, they don't want to train from scratch. They want to steal their competitors' trainees. They want to bring people in with 2 years experience because they don't want to train from scratch. Now, there are organizations that will train, but typically, if we think of the public sector, we think of defense, which you would think, defense, they need to have the best people. Yes, they train really well, but they have pay restrictions. So what will happen is they'll bring people in, they'll train them, and then they'll lose staff because everyone wants that 2 years experience. Now, there is I wouldn't say there's a shortage, but there is much less experienced talent. And by talent, I mean experienced talent that sort of experienced pen testers, experienced security architects. They were always really hard to find, really good cloud experts. So those sorts of people, there is a shortage. And what happens is everybody likes to steal everybody else's talent. Like say it, people keep moving around, and then the salaries will inflate because of that. There is I left recruitment sort of 15, 16 months ago. So probably left at the right time if we look at the current marketplace. But what happens is, then you are in a skills shortage for that specific niche. So if you are a pen tester with cloud security experience, with 8 to 10 years experience, you've got all the certs, you will be in demand, and you'll be able to say, I only want to work from home. I want these bonuses. I want these shares. Same with security architects. There's not enough security architects out there. But what we do see is people will come in non-traditional routes. So that entry level of talent means different things to different people. So if I think of a junior, I think of somebody with a year's experience, but the hiring community isn't educated enough with what we would call junior or entry level. So you see all of these different statistics, and if I see statistics, I feel like someone's trying to sell me something. It normally comes from a recruitment business, or it normally comes from a training program, or it comes from government. The best research typically does come out of government statistics, actually. Like DCMS in the UK, they have to do a skills shortage analysis where they go out and they interview actual customers. So whenever I see any stats like that, I'll look at where that's come from. Has it been referenced? Is it a million years old? Like the 10 million people needed by 2027, 2030? That stat's been going around for ages. They just keep pushing the date out. And you can say, well, obviously, we're going to need more cybersecurity professionals. Well, yeah, we're going to need more scientists. We're going to need more of everything. We're going to need more doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals by 2030. It's a realistic thing, I suppose. It's a realistic thing to say. But no, there's not a skill shortage. And we're seeing that in the UK. A lot of businesses are now doing back to work. Now, I won't be alone in this theory. For me, back to work Monday, particularly if it's 5 days a week, that's disguised redundancy. That's, hang on, we've got loads of vendors, we've got loads of solutions, they've got loads of products in the market that aren't selling because it's oversaturated. So how can we get rid of these staff without paying redundancies? Oh, I know, I'll piss them all off and say it's back to the office, mate. And if you don't like it, you will probably go and look for something else, and I don't have to pay you redundancy. So it's this interesting time. I wish we didn't live in interesting times, but I suppose you can refer that to many different things at the moment. There we go. We've got a rant in early.
Yeah, no, great. We love rants on this show. That's a great point about the redundancy thing. I'm quite special in the fact that for the last 10 years, I've only worked remote. Like, there hasn't been an office to go to. It would almost be like, I work for a company that's currently based in Minnesota and I'm in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And like, there is no return. Like, I didn't have an office. So I feel like that's quite a lot of pen test consultancies right now are just 100% remote. And I think it does make sense because in the US at least, because if you have testers that you can literally position all across the country, you're more likely to not have to pay much for travel when you do need to send them on site. But yeah, for the UK especially, I mean, UK, I used to live there. It's tiny.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does make sense. If you want to fire people but not fire people, then changing their working conditions, which you can legally do, I guess, is one way.
What happens in the UK, because I worked all through COVID in a recruitment business, what happened is when everybody became work from home, they didn't change people's contracts. It was just local agreements. There were very few businesses, and I can remember having these difficult conversations with people that, it's home-based. I know it doesn't say that in the contract, but they're not going to change the contracts for everyone, but just know that everybody works home-based. So they were conversations that were coming towards, and we were pushing back as recruiters. But some HR teams would just have, it's a standard contract for everyone, but there's a local agreement. Well, local agreements aren't written and can be rescinded. So, I mean, was it just the other day? I think I shared it in around about Blue Monday. I think it's Amazon, Facebook, so many different businesses are now doing it's not Facebook anymore, it's Meta, back to the office 5-day mandates. Obviously, Donald Trump's come in and said all government staff 5 days in the office. That's the starting how he means to go on, isn't he? What you think about that is, regardless, it's now mandated. So what typically is happening is that presenteeism, because it is presenteeism, in tech businesses is now coming back. That those dinosaurs that have been in the workplace 50, 60 years, and back in my day, we were all in the office. We never had none of this working from home. I can't see you. You're obviously not doing out. Sorry, that's a bit of northern coming out. So that's what's coming back. But it will turn again. I've worked through many recessions. I can remember when I was in recruitment, I went into London the day the markets crashed. So it will come round again. Businesses will need to hire people. But at the moment, because of how the market is, it is, or at least companies are thinking, it is a buyer's market for them rather than the candidates. But you're right, pen testers will work from home. Most dev teams, unless it's, I suppose, Amazon and Google and Tesla and wherever else, most dev teams will want to work from home because they've got the best environments. What will happen, though, and there was some stats in the UK that came out that said after COVID, there was less women in the workforce. And I was like, really? Are we surprised by this? Typically, women do have the lion's share of childcare responsibilities, drop-offs, pick-ups, things like that. When everybody was working from home and, my 4-year-old came home with Teams passwords and I rang school and went, this ain't happening. Like, he can't read and write. So no, this is just not happening. What typically happened was women did leave the workforce because they thought we've got too much going on. We've got children to look after. We've got children to homeschool. It will disproportionately affect women because it's women typically that have that child drop-offs and school runs and things like that. So we will, interestingly, we're seeing at the same time, businesses are now saying, we don't need those DEI departments because we don't really care about them anyway. Yeah. So it is interesting times. However, there are some really good places that will train people from scratch. There are some really good initiatives that are bringing people in and retraining. There's in the UK, there's like tech vets, military. I'm going to mention CAPSLOCK because I head up the mentoring program for CAPSLOCK, which helps retrain people. With CAPSLOCK, a company called BAE Systems, you might have heard of them. Mm-hmm. They actually paid for a cohort of 40 people to be trained into cybersecurity trainees, juniors, within sort of 16 weeks. And then the only caveat was they would give them all an interview. They had to be security clearable. So there are businesses that are recognizing we can retrain people. It doesn't always have to be degrees. It can be people at all levels of career, and they're bringing different transferable skills. And I think as an industry, the reason we're seeing more and more people want to get into cybersecurity is we're becoming more aware of it. The general public are more aware of it. My 9-year-old gets taught safety. He's been taught coding since he was 7, a very basic coding, but he gets taught about online safety and about cybersecurity and why it's important not to share passwords. He said to me the other day, which I thought was brilliant, Mum, Fortnite, they'll give me an extra skin if I enable 2FA. Can you enable 2FA? What's 2FA? And I'm like, I'll explain this to you. Okay, we'll do this. But I think it's really good. We're teaching this next generation really quickly about the importance of security. So I don't think we're going to struggle with a pipeline. I think we're just going to struggle to keep people in exciting roles that are going to change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, I hope it does change back at some point. I'm sure it will.
It will. It will.
I feel like it's always with, like, you see the big companies overhire and then 6 months later they have to let everybody go. And then 3 months after that, they have to hire people back. And it's like, there's I swear, like, at big companies, there just isn't any planning going on. Like,
there isn't. No, there isn't at all. And what will happen is somebody somewhere will say, right, the budget says we need to make this many sales. And this is, I suppose, this is back to the bloatware that happens with products, that everything's the latest. Like, it was XDR, then it was MDR, then it was, it started with EDR, now it's AI, now it's machine learning, now it's SOAR. It's like, you go to, I'm not including B-sides in this, but you go to like a corporate conference, you can play bullshit bingo as you walk around. And this doesn't help anyone because there's all these wonderful new products, and half the time they aren't wonderful new products. They're, silver bullets, but they're made out of plastic. You get really eager marketing departments that, just should not be allowed to make these claims. And then unfortunately, you get a community of uninformed but scared to ask questions, maybe IT managers lumbered with cybersecurity responsibility, buying these tools and thinking they're safe. And then when they get hit with a breach and, the tool didn't do what it said because it wasn't configured or it wasn't switched on, I've heard so many horror stories. I feel like my eyes have opened. I want to go back to like not knowing what's under the hood. What happens then, though, is they think, well, we're going to get hit anyway. I'm not going to name a vendor, but I spent like 250,000 on this blinky box that didn't do what it said it would, and now I've got no money to spend. Yeah,
I go to B-Sides Chicago every year. Really good con.
Kat is keynote in B-Sides Lancashire.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Kat. Yeah, I met her this year. I actually spoke this year, so I was able to meet her like that. But I go every year. It's a really good con. This is not meant as a diss for the con at all, but this year especially, the vendors, it was just an AI frenzy.
Oh.
It was, you would go and listen to the pitch and just be waiting for it's powered by AI. And I'm like, I don't know what that means right now. Like, it's crazy.
We've had like critical national infrastructure businesses put out an RFP that ask for things like SOAR, that ask for AI, that ask for intelligent, AI to shut things down if you need to. And we just go, absolutely, no way. Our insurance let AI, I mean, we use AI-powered efficiencies. We'll get it in there if you need to hear the word AI. You need a human analyst making a decision to shut down a power station. And if you don't see that as a buyer, let's not touching this. They go to these conferences that are run by a sales and marketing, and I organise conferences. But if you go to like an InfoSec, if you go to any like DTX or any of the things in the UK that are run, where they'll sell the sales list as well, they'll sell the attendee list, which again, I'm not a fan of. And they'll hear that all these problems they need to be concerned about that they didn't know they had. But this magic solution will do what it says on the tin. They don't need to worry about RFPs. They don't need to worry about going through a process to assess what they need, because this vendor is your best friend and they're going to fix it for you, all these problems you didn't think you had. And we've had customers come to us to say, right, well, say we're a factory and I need a pen test. I need a pen test of all my critical systems, including the website. Okay, what does your website do? It's just information. Has it got any user fields, collect any data, take any payments? No, it's just information. Why do you need to pen test your website? Oh, we did it last year. It's disgusting. It's like we are a industry, or we should be an industry that's built on ethics and integrity, but we'll fleece people to meet sales targets. It's just not on.
Yeah.
But it's like the IT industry was 20 years ago. So it's still the Wild West a little bit. We're not mature yet as an industry. It will mature. And the businesses and individuals that do good and do the right thing, they will be the ones that prosper, hopefully. That's what I'm telling myself anyway.
Although we started out with just jobs, and then we're somehow we're on to AI. We've been infected by AI already. It's great. Oh, it's fun. A term I've seen being increasingly used in the cybersecurity industry, especially, is ghost job. That is a job which companies advertise for but have no intention of hiring for. Why do these job listings exist, and is there anything that job seekers can do to identify them and save themselves some time?
Okay, so there's two examples of ghost jobs in my mind. So if it's come from a recruiter and it's a ghost job, they might have a heads up on a role that isn't live yet, that they want to sort of sandbag candidates or start speaking to people. Because if you have a difficult role, no, none of these should happen, by the way. But if you have a difficult role and you know it's going to take you a while, you might go out early to start looking for people so that when the customer's ready to hire, you've already got your shortlist. Mm-hmm. So you can identify that. If they won't tell you who the customer is, don't speak to them. Unless you've got a really good recruiter that you know and you've worked with a long time, they've placed you before, they've got you interviews before at least, then I would not work on that basis. They should be able to tell you who it is anyway. Like, particularly in the UK, as part of the recruitment framework, I think it might be the REC guidelines, they should never put you forward for a role that you don't know who the customer is. Because how do you know it's not your current employer for a start? Right. Because there have been horror stories of recruiters that are that shit, they've sent someone's CV to their employer. I can probably name a couple of people that's happened to. Or they don't have any jobs. Their boss is hitting them with KPIs because recruiters are getting hit at the moment as well. What do you mean you're not placing people? You're only as good as your last placement. So they need to make a fake job so they can spec out, as in speculatively send someone's CV to opportunities to try and find you a job. Now, if you're a really good pen tester and you're an experienced, I'm just going to use pen tester. If you're an experienced pen tester, you should know which pen test companies you want to work for. If you're kind of getting a bit pissed off at work, but you're in work, you're busy, you want to be dealing with a specialist pen test recruiter who you can talk to about what you want to do, what you like, what you don't like, and they actually understand when you're talking about different areas of security. They understand the certs, they understand that CEH isn't worth the paper it's written on, that sort of stuff. They know their stuff. Then they're a specialist recruiter. Then yes, you can go to them and say, you might not have any jobs, but you probably know all the pen test businesses that I want to work for. Or you might have a role that isn't with a consultancy. I don't want to do consultancy anymore. Can you find me something? I give you permission to work on my behalf, but you should give me a list of companies that you're going to send me to that you know. That's the only way that should work. So what you can sometimes see, and particularly in the contract market, I don't know if it's the same in the US, but I suppose there isn't really the employment security for candidates in the US. It's all really contracts. They can let you go within a day.
Very strange. Yeah.
So in the contract market in the UK, a recruiter will put out a contract job because they want some new CVs. Now, I never did this because for a start, it gives you a lot of headache because suddenly you've got all these candidates ringing you about this fake job that you've made up. It's just not worth it. It's like, unless it's not a fake job, unless it's, I know I'm getting this requirement next week, it's not signed off yet, I'll go to market early, then that could be a ghost job. But they're just making hard work for themselves. Or there's some really corporate recruitment businesses where they have KPIs, they have call targets. You've got to speak to 25 candidates every day. So fake job, suddenly I've got 25 candidates to speak to. But you'll know if you ask them which company you're hiring for, you can normally sniff it out a little bit. Like if they say it's a utilities company in this location, so, I've already spoken to someone about this job at, say a name of a company, them, and they'll tell you if it is. So you can get it out of them. You can socially engineer it out of them if it's real. If it's fake, you'll know when you speak. Or you'll send the CV and they'll never actually call you. You won't be able to get hold of the recruiter. They just need to get CVs in. So again, it's really shitty practices. It's not anything I did, but I know businesses that do that. And unfortunately, it's the environment they're being brought up, being trained in to have to do that. The other is I'm a bank, maybe not a bank. I'm a small retailer. I am going through an internal process. However, HR have told me I've got to advertise this role. I know who I want. I know it's my mate. If I've worked with him before for the last 3 jobs, I'm going to hire him anyway, but HR have said I've got to advertise this.
Right.
So how you can navigate that better is, and this is advice for experienced people. I've got different advice for people at the beginning of a career, is you probably know the companies that you want to work for. You probably have friends that you've worked with before that you'd like to work with. So if you are actively looking or starting to think about looking, the very first thing to do is reach out to your network that you know. You don't need a recruiter to get you a job, unless it's a recruiter that you've worked with before and it's a specialist recruiter in a specialist market. You can probably find a job through your own communities and network. Now, that is the power of community. And particularly in this market, if you ask any CISO, if you ask any CISOs in your network, how did you get your last job? Oh, I told my CISO WhatsApp group I was looking and found a job. And it's annoying because it ends up being a boys or girls network, and it's who you know, and you can normally use the power of your community to find a job. If you're a pen tester, you're probably on all the Discord channels. You put out there, I'm starting to think about what's next for me. You will probably sniff out opportunities that will never get advertised. And this is the thing. That is the way to game the system. You know, not everybody. The flip side of that is what I used to do rather than advertise a job, because it took forever. I had to fill in loads of forms. I'd do a post on LinkedIn. I'm hiring for these jobs in the next 3 weeks, list the jobs. So it was a post, it wasn't a job. But then people in my network that I would speak to all the time, particularly if it was like a security clear contract, I'd know, a good recruiter will know, they'll have on their database pen testers. They'll be able to actually search through or send an email to all the pen testers that you're working with or that you know potentially are looking, to say, I'm looking for this job. I'm hiring for this job. It's coming up in the next few weeks. This is the salary. Like, they should advertise the salary. Like, there's no reason not to, because they do tell the recruiter what the salary is. This is the salary. This is the working conditions. This is the type of work. If you know anyone, I'll pay you 200 quid or 300 quid as a referral fee, because we used to do that. That's the best way to do cyber recruitment, because everyone knows everyone. You don't want to advertise and you get all the people who've been out of work for ages, the same people that apply for every job, regardless of whether it's a pen tester, a security architect, a SOC analyst. They're applying for every job. They haven't got the skills, because the best people aren't always looking. Now, that is advice from 15 months ago. Obviously, it's been a while since I've been in recruitment. It might have changed a little bit with the current market, but using recruiters who you know or get recommended, or ask your pen test friends, or ask your security engineering friends, what recruiter's got you your last job? And if it was a good recruiter that got them the last job, then that's the one you need to be speaking with, because they won't be posting ghost jobs because they're too busy filling jobs.
Yeah, that makes sense. You said that was your advice for people with experience. You had different advice for people without. So what would that be?
Okay, so again, UK knowledge. So we would get at the end of graduation season, we would get all the grads come to us with the same looking CVs. Okay. The only thing that would really stand them out, if they've got a first, if they've got a 2-1, there might be some businesses are snobby about like Russell Group universities and things like that. But do you know who else has got a degree at that university? All your other cohort that have finished. So this is advice for students, and it's different for trainers. So if you are a student, what will stand you out is, have you got a home lab? What are you doing on your home lab? So we used to recruit for graduates for a business that was kind of doing like the testing of technology between China and the UK. Everyone had to be cleared, but they were making sure there was no backdoors and that sort of technology. And they didn't really care whether it was a first, a 2-1 or a 2-2. You had to have a degree because some of the government requirements said you had to have a degree. So that was unfortunate. But all they wanted to know was home lab. What are you doing in your home lab? Have you got a home network? What sort of projects are you doing? Are you attending conferences like B-Sides? Are you on Hack the Box? Are you on Try Hack Me? It's that additional knowledge. Everyone has done the same modules on that university degree. It's good to list your modules, but actually it's that hands-on experience. Or what projects? Like, have you spun up AWS? Are you playing around with AWS? If you want to go into SOC, are you using open source tools? Are you looking at Security Onion? Have you got Wazoo? All of these technologies, that's what makes you stand out. Now, it's not enough anymore, particularly in this market, to just have a degree. Now, I'm not diminishing a degree. It's 3 years of a lot of intense study. You can have worked in a side role in service desk or IT, and then do some courses and still have that home lab projects. Depending on the business, if there's no requirement for a degree, taking someone who's worked in IT or sysadmin who's doing home projects rather than a graduate that hasn't had much hands-on experience, because some university you don't get a lot of hands-on lab time. It's all theoretical depending on the degree that you've done. It would be the person with the projects that gets chosen. Now, if you are a retrainer or you're cyber curious at the moment, you don't have to work in IT, but you're looking at your meetups locally. So in the UK, I run a 2600 in Manchester. It's not the old 2600, it's a newly formed 2600 because it wasn't happening anymore. You've got 2600 groups that meet monthly. You've got DC groups. You've got one in Leeds. You've got loads of different networking opportunities. If you are cyber curious and you're going to these networking opportunities, you're going to these talks, you're then going home and thinking, actually, I'm going to do, Advent of Cyber over Christmas because why not? I really want to learn about this. Going to those networking groups, you will find opportunities that aren't advertised. People will see that you're passionate, same as B-sides, like going to B-sides. B-sides are once a year. But if you want to volunteer at a B-side, it's something to put on your CV. You're also going to be meeting with, normally it's cybersecurity professionals that are doing this as passion projects. If you go and volunteer, you're going to get invited to the pre-sides. You're going to be with people who could potentially help find you a job or, could potentially hire you. You're showing that you actually really want to do this. You're going to put the effort in. You're taking time out of your social time or your personal time to learn. You're building a home lab, you're playing around with networks. Like one of the guys who works for us now, I'm not going to say his name because best not say that. One of the guys who works for us now, he worked in IT on a service desk. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I want to put a talk into B-sides, but I've no idea what I want to talk about. So I gave him some ideas and he was telling me about his home project. I said, you need to put that sort of stuff on LinkedIn. So with projects, you can put it on LinkedIn. Not everyone we'll come back to this in a minute, but not everybody wants to shout about what they're doing on LinkedIn. But if you are job hunting and you want to have something different on your CV, if you haven't got a lot of technical experience, all the different projects that you've done, if you write up about them, you can use Medium, you can use blog posts. If you have a bit of a portfolio of what you've the rabbit holes that you've gone down, which in this industry, we all go down little tech rabbit holes and you think, oh my God, I just spent 3 hours doing whatever codey magic and I still can't write code. That sort of thing on your CV will make it stand out. Yes, you might not have technical experience, but you can show that you can research a project. If you do like Try Hack Me or you do Hack the Box and you do a challenge and then actually you unpick what you've done, so you document what you've done. But then if you think about what you've just seen and what you've just solved, how can that relate back to the real world? How can that relate back to a business? How can a business defend against these sort of attacks? So you can show that actually I understand this side, I understand this side. That's really valuable, if you can explain better than I am right now, if you can explain what you've done to a technical or a non-technical person, they are really important. I don't call them soft skills because they're not soft at all. They're your impact skills. They're really important skills. Same with maybe you're interested in compliance. We've got DORA regulation coming out. Well, it's technically out, but it's becoming more enforceable in the UK. So if you understand those frameworks and what it means and how a business can protect itself against DORA, or how a business can prepare for DORA, not necessarily protect against DORA, that's really good experience. If you understand the MITRE ATT&CK framework, if you start writing, and the reason I say writing is because the first time you write something, you're going to be rusty. These are skills that you need to develop. But if every time you're doing a tech project or you're researching or you're learning about something new and you write what you've learned, you're cementing your knowledge in your head, but you've got something to showcase when you go to an interview. These are the projects that I've worked on. And what you could actually start to do, depending on how confident you are, you can share it on LinkedIn if you want to. But if you don't want to do that, you can find businesses that are local to you, that people are working at, and speculatively apply for them. You haven't got to wait for a job opportunity. If you connect with somebody there and say, hey, I'm learning about compliance, I'm retraining into cybersecurity, this is what I want to do, this is my understanding of DORA, I just want to showcase you the projects I'm working on. Would you have a chat with me about what else I should be learning about? You're not asking for a job. You're asking for someone's help to review what you've done already, to give you some ideas. Now, the people that come to me, don't all come to me, people who come to me and ask for help and ideas of things to learn about, if I'm going to be hiring next week, if I'm hiring for a junior, I'm going to stick a post out. I'm going to get 100 applicants within the first 10 minutes. Half of them are going to comment with interested, which for a start, that used to really knock me. I'm like, What? So now I contact you. Is that how this works? Am I not busy? It's like, don't do that. The person I spoke to a week ago that's contacted me out of the blue, it might not always work, contacted me out of the blue, asked for expertise. Maybe I've met them at an event that I go to once a month, or I've met them at a conference. I see them every conference I go at, or I see them at like different networking events. I can see they're passionate. I can't be bothered to stick a post out to look at someone. I've found someone I can potentially train there that's proactive and doing what I need. So it's not always going to work. It depends on the market that we're in. But networking, building that community, finding your tribe, as I kind of stealing that phrase from one of my friends who said it, and I'm like, that's mine now, I love that. That's going to get you closer to finding a job, because you'll find out about opportunities that aren't already out there. Because once a job's posted, especially a junior job, there's 100 applicants. If you can use that network to find out about jobs before they get advertised, chances are they won't get advertised because you'll fill them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely.
You need to stop agreeing with me. We need a few arguments to make this interesting, So what I tell the CAPSLOCK is, CAPSLOCK is a retraining program in the UK. The mentoring is completely separate. So it's industry mentors that want to give up their time, and I kind of coordinate that whilst they're retraining. What I tell the CAPSLOCKers is, you might be the best, you might be the next big hacker that's going to break all the things, find all the CVs. But if you're not putting yourself out there, how are we going to find you? How's anyone going to find you? If you're not, like, some people hate LinkedIn, and once you're in the industry, that's fine, come off it, like when you're not looking for a job anymore. But LinkedIn is a professional networking site. You're not like TikTok, you're fighting with like cat memes and viral videos and whatever else. Like, LinkedIn is professional networking. Twitter, it's still going to be Twitter, that's gone to whatever. LinkedIn is a place for people to find jobs. So yeah, you need to be on LinkedIn if you are looking for work. And even when you stop looking, so I will, if I give a little story about how I got my job, I wasn't looking for work. I was quite happy in recruitment. I was starting to think about what's next for me. Like, I was in a small business. Recruitment was getting hard. I'd done it for 20 years, which, that's insanity for anyone to be in recruitment for that long. Not many people last that long. And I'd seen a post by Eliza, which it went viral. She said she was looking for a magical genie person. So you'll notice there's a genie in my emoji on LinkedIn. And I'll also tell you a hack for that as well. And it talked about, she was looking for somebody that wasn't a sales droid, that was embedded in the community. It's not a sales job. It was working with customers, helping figure out what they want, solving problems, but also small business. Like, at times you might be making the tea and sweeping up after an event sort of thing, a bit like snobs don't work well here. And it was talking about the problems that they wanted to solve. Now, it went viral with salespeople going mental, like, this isn't a real job. And industry people saying, this is how we want to be sold to. We want people who actually care about community, want to understand problems, and not just try and sell a solution. So I'd known Eliza for ages through B-Sides and Ladies Hacking Society. I actually recommended people to her at the time that I knew were looking for these types of roles. But it kind of sat in my brain, whirring. And like I say, I wasn't actively looking, and these are the best sort of jobs. And sometimes these are the best candidates. They're not actively looking for the next thing. But if I wasn't on LinkedIn, I wouldn't have seen the role. And I saw her actually at an event a couple of months later and asked if she found anyone yet. She said, kissed a few frogs, but we haven't found the right person. So I said, do you know what? I had a few glasses of wine at this time. I'll have a chat with you about this job. Next day, that was it. I was on a call with her and Steve and the other co-founder. And within about 20 minutes, she'd offered me. And I hadn't written my CV. I wasn't looking, but she knew me from networks. I knew her from networks. I knew I was going into a very unusual environment, but everyone's brain fizzes. Everyone's like absolute technical wizards. We're all direct, but we have so much fun. Like, we all rip the piss out of each other, but we do some really good work. If I hadn't known her, would I have got that job? No. If she hadn't known me, like, I think a few people had mentioned my name to her at the time, like, you need to speak to Rosie, but I wasn't looking. They're the best jobs. Like, that you find out about opportunities that you didn't even know about, and you can craft it into what you want it to be. I mean, I managed to go to DEF CON I'm going to DEF CON again this year. I've got the best job in the world, and I'm working with like technical wizards. But that's because of the power of the network, and it is so important. Like, if you think about your groups of friends at home, or like your friends that you've grown up with, this industry is different. Like, you can't have a really bad day where you've had a call at like 2 a.m. and you've had to get out of bed and you're working all weekend trying to fix something, or you're dealing with a ransom attack for a customer and it's really stressful because you can't go home and talk to your partner about that. And they're like, oh, what do I want? My husband's a plasterer. He's like, I have no clue what you want about half the time, Rosie. So you need that network for finding about opportunities, but also people that you can lean on when the going gets a bit tough and you need someone to send you a dark joke because they know you're in the middle of shit. You're like, oh my God, that made me smile. Thanks for that. It'll be okay. And I don't think there's many other industries like this one for that.
No.
Now, you don't get hairdressing community conferences, do you? Well, maybe you do. Maybe that's what's next for me.
They're probably the best cons, to be honest with you. Yeah. We're missing out. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned LinkedIn being a serious platform. It is a very serious platform. It didn't stop me and John Hammond the other day streaming Mario Party on it, which was we were like, well, we're going to stream to, John. It was Twitch, YouTube, X, and I was like, well, I could always stream to LinkedIn. That'd be kind of cheeky. So
I did see that, and actually, I think content that stands out. It's all getting very samey. Everyone's using ChatGPT to write the post, so you know when it's. Yeah. Really wordy sentences and like it's Z instead of S. It's like reminisce.
Emojis at the end of every sentence.
Oh, emojis. So a good hack for LinkedIn, if you are getting spammed, if you put an emoji at some point in your first name or by your first name, you know it's automated because it picks up the emoji.
Oh, okay.
So when someone sends you a message, you know it's automated if it picks up the emoji for me. That's when I'm like, I'm not answering that. If you're going to send me automated shit, I will send you automated response. Sorry, but I will.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, that is a good hack. That is funny. Nice. So let's say that a person has already got their first job in cybersecurity. They build up a few years' experience at a company. Maybe they don't see a future there. I know we've kind of covered this already, but what are the top things that people should be doing when they are looking to get a new job?
So being visible on LinkedIn. So with LinkedIn, you can make posts, you can talk about what you're doing, obviously not, breaking any NDAs and that sort of stuff. You always know when people will start looking again because they start coming out to the conferences. Like even like the corporate conferences are there because actually they're thinking, well, I might as well go out and network and find out what my next opportunity could be. You have to be careful with getting certs paid for by your company because some businesses will have in their contract that if you leave within 12 months, you've got to pay back that fee. So that's something you have to be really prepared for. Have a think about where previous people who've left the business, where they've gone. You can reach out to some friends. Most people are going to keep these things confidential. It doesn't take long for people to know that you're looking and to then contact you. You can change your profile on LinkedIn to open to conversations or open to work. The only people that will see that, though, are recruiters. So it depends if you want to start getting calls from recruiters. If there are good recruiters, you can reach out to one who will be confidential for you. They'll tell you about the market. They'll tell you what salary you should be on. They should be able to give you all that sort of information. In the UK, you can go onto a website called itjobswatch.co.uk. And if you are a SOC analyst in Leeds, for example, it will tell you an amalgamation of all the average advertised job salaries in Leeds, so you can see where you should be at. It's not always going to be perfect because there's different levels of jobs, but then it'll tell you like who's hiring or who's been hiring recently, what jobs have been out there, so you can see which recruiters hire in your space. You don't have to reach out to a recruiter. You can just have a look at jobs yourself. But making a note, even when you're not looking, of all the projects you've worked on, so that when it comes to updating your CV, like particularly if you're a consultant and you're working on different projects all the time, you will forget. If I'd come to write my CV for that job, I probably wouldn't have done it for a start. I mean, having looked at CVs for ages, I'm very lazy. But keeping your LinkedIn up to date as well, like when you get promotions internally, updating that. You can always tell, like, people start updating the LinkedIn, because your LinkedIn really should look like your CV to a degree. Yeah, and going out to conferences, going out to community events, and you'll hear about opportunities. The first thing, so what we do at that security company, we don't advertise jobs. We've always got people speculatively sending the CV to us, and we keep them on file for 6 months, and we'll reach out to those people when we're ready to hire, rather than go out, because I think the post that Eliza put out for my role has 1,000 applicants. It went viral on LinkedIn. It had about 3,000 comments at one point. She had someone email and said the CEO is is an idiot, basically. I don't think they use the word idiot. She's just like, okay, I really pissed someone off today. Oh, just by saying that she didn't want a sales droid. But yeah, I don't want to knock recruiters because there are some really good recruiters. You can use a recruiter to find you a job, but you need to find one that you trust and you'll know if they're being honest with you. I think but also being mindful of, if I advertise like a contract job, in fact, I very rarely did it because you just get loads of applicants. You can't answer the phone if you're on the phone. But also if someone messaged me and I say, oh, I'll call you today. If I haven't called you by 5 o'clock, just ping me because I probably forgot, or ring me. Like you can pick up the phone to a recruiter and hopefully they'll answer. You can have a conversation over the phone with someone. But yeah. And also you could speculatively apply to places. It depends how desperate you are to get out of where you are. Depends how much effort you want to put in. But just updating your LinkedIn, changing your status and maybe contacting one recruiter that's in your area that you've heard from your friends is good would be enough to get you your next role normally. Or at least get you started on that process when you know how serious you are.
Good advice. Awesome. So cyber training programs, boot camps, if you will, we have sort of briefly brought them up.
Yeah.
They get a bad rep. For various reasons, with several of them just being scams.
Yeah.
You head up a mentoring program for CAPSLOCK, which is a legitimate cybersecurity retraining company that does do boot camps.
Yeah.
What sets you apart, and how can people tell the good boot camps from the bad ones? Okay,
so boot camps. You can tell I'm from the north now. I'm saying boot. Boot and boot. Boot camps. Typically, sort of 5, maybe not even 5, maybe 10 years ago, they were really shocking. You'd get like 6 weeks, how to be a software developer in 6 weeks. And you're like, you can't even like teach someone how to write a script in that long. So when I got asked to sort of get involved as a mentor with CAPSLOCK, boot camps to me, I was just like, no, they're all a bit shit. Training programs will work for some people. So the reason I support CAPSLOCK is I've seen the outcomes for people. It's a 16-week training program. It's 9:30 to 2:30. It's team-based learning. So everything that they learn, and it's very much mile wide, inch deep. It's in 16 weeks. They start with business and strategy. They start with like incident response and planning, governance, risk and compliance is like the first third. Then they go into sort of network fundamentals, security architecture, DevSecOps in the middle. And then the last third is offensive and defensive security. So they'll touch on pen testing, they'll touch on SOC, they'll touch on malware analysis, threat intelligence. So obviously you're not going to learn everything you need to know in that 16 weeks, but it's a taster of all of those areas. They do 5 certifications. So it's a certified boot camp by DCMS, which is in the UK. They do Security Plus, they do CISMP, they do ISO, and they do CCSK. So they cover cloud as well. So it's well thought out training program and everything is team-based learning. So when they start at the beginning, right, this is your fictional company called Plum. Everything that you learn in the classroom, you're going to apply to your fictional company. So when we talk about security strategy, you're going to write a security strategy for your company. When we talk about incident response, so when you come to get an interview, if you decide you want to go into incident response, for example, you can show them the policies you've created. You've also got your lab time. I always tell them, if you know you want to be a SOC analyst or a pen tester, don't wait till the final third, like start now. You've got access to range force labs, you've got access to these things. And the reason the mentoring is kept completely separate is because it's like anything, what you learn in the classroom is not going to be real life. So we have mentors who come from financial services and they'll say, this is how we would do that. We have mentors that work in consultancies and they'll say, this is how we do that. So what they're learning in the classroom, they can also have an expert come and talk to them about what that looks like in real life. And if they want to go down that path. Now, typically what we see is half will go into governance, risk and compliance, which is a very valid part of security. It might not be fun for everyone, but we need governance, risk and compliance, the same as we need pen testers, the same as we need SOC analysts. And the other half will go more technical. But because of that team-based learning, because of that mentoring, what they've done, and I've seen this many times, is they've brought people who are DJs, who are now working for Big Four. They've brought people who were stay-at-home mums, who are now working in large consultancies that used to only hire graduates. Now, there will be people who will do the course. They will never turn up to a mentoring session, ever, because, it's after 2:30 and, that's too late for me. They'll try and do the bare minimum to scrape through and then expect to get a job at the end. Now, CAPSLOCK never says to anyone, you are guaranteed a job. there was a cohort that was completely paid for by BAE. They were all guaranteed interviews. They didn't pay for the training. BAE paid for the training. They were guaranteed an interview at the end. Not everybody got a job at BAE. Some of them got jobs elsewhere. It is like anything. What you put in is, you can only ever look at what effort am I putting into this. Now, there are other people who from day one were not pestering me. Pestering is possibly the wrong word, but like ringing me saying, right, I want to get involved in mentoring. I want to do this. What do I need to do? And you can see the people who are thinking, I want to change my life. Now, CAPSLOCK, you do pay. Not everybody pays straight away. They do it like a student loan. The fees are on the website. So if anyone's interested, you can go and look at the fees on the website. However, you also have DCMS funding. So if you're a woman, if you are a military veteran, if you are from a low socioeconomic background, you're on benefits, there was a percentage of cohort that got free training. So they are doing what they can to help improve diversity in the industry and also social mobility, which is really important. Not everybody needs to, you could go and do those certifications. If you said to me, go and do those 4 certifications on your own, I'd be like, I need to clean my oven. I'd be finding so many different jobs that rather than trying to study on my own. So it is, for some people, that formalized training works. Now, because they're constantly solving a problem, they're not spoon-fed either. It's, right, this is the content, then you need to go and do the same. Then you need to present back what you're learning. So every single module, every single thing they have to do, they have to present back to their peers and score each other. So when you think about, actually, this is a good point to come on to. When you think about what we used to get asked for in new hires, I want someone who can solve problems, who can think on their own. I want someone who can speak to different stakeholders at different levels. I want someone who's driven. I'm like, right, just tell me what skills you want, because that's way easier to find. Tell me some certs or something. I need the mindset, Rosie, we used to get. I need the, particularly for juniors, I need the mindset. It's completely free to hire from CAPSLOCK. So if you're a business that is wanting to hire junior staff that have got some training, you can go to the CAPSLOCK recruitment team and say, I need someone who'll work 5 days a week in Leeds because all of my seniors have just handed their notice in because we're doing back to the office, for example. And they will filter for you and then provide you with the shortlist. They also they're not just left on their own. They're going through the 16-week training program. They get a peer. They find their tribe, which I think is really important. Any of the B-sides I organise, I'll go out to them all and say, right, come and talk about what you're learning about. Come and talk about retraining into cyber. And then the people that have completed the course and got jobs in industry will also come back and mentor alongside industry mentors. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy of, you can see this person went out and got a job, this works. I think at the last count, I think it was 86% of the cohort got jobs within 12 months. I was going to say 12 years. Bloody hell, I hope so. Within a year, within 12 months. So that is, the proof is in the pudding, I suppose.
Right.
But there will be people who've done the course and didn't enjoy it, dropped out. If you've done your course, you don't get a job, and you've taken out a student loan, when you get a job and you hit a certain threshold, you're going to have to pay back that training. Because, training isn't always free unless they were able to do it through bootcamp training and bootcamp funding. So yes, some people are snarky about training courses. I understand when they've got those false stats, but in my experience and from what I've seen and people's lives that have completely changed, we've got so many teachers that are now, I feel sorry for the teaching industry, to be honest, that are now in security. And we've got so many electricians and different people from different backgrounds that understand the engineering life cycle that are now in security and making a difference in businesses. And I think that's something to be really proud of. The CAPSLOCK and Mona and Andrea, who are the 2 founders.
Yeah, awesome. I think you raised a great point actually at the beginning of your answer, which is it's called a boot camp. It's not supposed to teach you everything. Boot camps don't do that anyway. In the original definition of a boot camp, right, from the military, they don't teach you everything. They teach you the very basics to be a soldier in this case, right? So yeah, I feel like a lot of the boot camps are just promising the world and promising, you'll get a job in cybersecurity earning this amount of money, and it's no, obviously. Yeah. Some of you, sure, maybe, if you're exceptional.
But not from day one. Right. Yeah. When you look at, if you say, what's the average salary in cybersecurity? Well, if you look at everybody in cybersecurity from SOC analyst to CISO, the average is pretty high. What's your average starting salary? It's all about the questions they're asked. And I saw something the other day at a station about, again, it was a cyber training course. It wasn't CAPSLOCK, offering starting salaries of 70k. And I'm like, the only people that have ever got starting salaries of 70k have like come in as like managers in the military and then done the cyber certs and then gone into managers in defense consultancies supplying to the military. Like that's a very small percentage that are getting those high level salaries. Your average starting salary is anywhere between 30 and 40,000. But if you've been on benefits, if you've been a stay at home mum, that is life changing. And the amount of people that have been in like happy tears because they've got a job. There was one of the first cohorts that I mentored. He was a DJ and it took him a while to get the confidence to apply, but then he had 3 job offers. He'd accepted 1 job offer with a big 4. And then he had another 2 job offers and he rang me. He's like, Rosie, I've accepted this job. I've got to take this one, but I don't know what to do. You don't have to, the law might be different in the US, just caveat that. You don't have to take a job that, if you have a job offer and you've said yes, okay. A, until there's paperwork, nothing is binding. B, even if you've signed your paperwork, until the day that you start, that is not binding. No one's making you start that job. On the flip side of that, if you are leaving a job, if you're going to hand your notice in, do not do that until you've read your contract. It might say in there that you're going to sell your soul to the devil. Like, read your contract terms. Read what it says. If you don't have an offer and they want you to start on Monday and it's Friday, no, I will see my paperwork. I will read my contract. I will not sign it until I've read it and understood it. And if someone's pressuring you, that is a warning sign. Like, but never hand your notice in until you've received an offer in writing that you've read and you're comfortable with and you're happy with the terms. The other thing is, if you get offered a job and someone else offers you another job, there's nothing wrong with going back to your first offer and saying, I've had another offer. I want some time to think about it. My other offer is X. Is there anything that you could do to match X? It might not work, but at least you've asked. And another critical piece of advice is, if you're unhappy where you are, or you're starting to think, well, what's next for me? I used to see this all the time. The first question I would ask a candidate who's employed is, have you spoken to your boss? Have you checked there's nothing else where you're at right now? Do they know that your career aspirations have changed? Because we used to get so many times like left to go into a different company, doing a different role. I wish they told me, because I could have offered them that here. And you don't want to find that after you've gone through that process, because what will typically happen is, even if you decide to stay, even if when you hand your notice in, your boss says to you, I'm going to, let me see what we can do. If you decide to stay, there's always that little seed of doubt for you as, well, actually, would it have been better somewhere else? But also for them, that you've gone through that process, you've not talked to them about it. Now, obviously, don't say, I'm going to leave if you don't give me X, Y, Z. That's not a great negotiating position to go in when you haven't got anything. But by saying, I've been here 5 years, I haven't had a promotion, I'm really interested in this other area, I feel like I can add more to the business. What does my career path look like? You're having an open conversation that's not saying that you're leaving, but it is alerting them a little bit that you want more responsibility, and go for the more responsibility before talking about money. But be armed with, what you've done whilst you're here, the projects that you've seen, and being really visible with the projects that you're delivering, making sure that your bosses know what you're doing. Sometimes you do have to sort of back yourself and sing your own praises. Yeah,
no, definitely. And to comment on the US stuff, so I think, the US is the Wild West, like quite literally, but there are no real contracts here. It's like you said, I think it's called at-will employment in like 49 of the 50 states, which basically means, a company can tell you on any day that you don't work here anymore. But on the flip side, you can also tell the company on any day, I don't work here now. Yeah. And they can't do a thing. So if you have a job offer and you get another one, and even if you've just started on day one, I mean, it kind of looks a bit bad, but nothing stopping you from saying, actually, sorry. Yeah. I
made a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of sucks, but sometimes that might be the best move.
The thing is, there's no loyalty. There's no one owes you. Like, you, even in the UK where you're working somewhere, they're renting you. They're renting your experience, and you are renting a a salary from them for that period of time that you're there. Hopefully you're both learning skills and you're delivering value, but at any time that can change. And it's a hard lesson to learn. Like when people get made redundant, it can feel really personal, but actually what does the business do? How does the business make money? And how are you as an employee or a contractor helping them deliver projects that either deliver value, make them money, save them money? How are you contributing to that? Because you can see with businesses, if, you know, they're not making any money, there's no new customers coming on board. Well, I'd be thinking, this is possibly a time to look before, you know, I get pushed. If they're not making money, if they're making a loss, if they're, and understanding where you sit within that operational goals of a business. Like, am I helping? Is cyber helping the business to grow? Is my job helping directly? And there's nothing wrong with being very vocal about what you're delivering. You know, if you can get time with senior leadership and use that time to talk about the projects that you're working on, what's your boss's biggest pain? What are they struggling with? How can you help that? That's the way you advance in your career if you want to stay at a company. And there's nothing wrong with moving. The more you move around, particularly in the UK, the more you move jobs, that every time you're probably going to get a pay increase, sometimes faster than if you stay in the same company for 15 years, which was something I learned the hard way when I was in recruitment.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same in the US, to be honest. Yeah. You yourself made the transition from recruiting into cybersecurity just approximately over a year ago, right? What prompted that change, and did you encounter any unexpected obstacles despite your experience recruiting people into cyber?
So I've been involved in B-Sides for, this year will be our third B-Sides Lancashire. So I've been involved in B-Sides for 3 years. So I felt like I knew quite a lot about community. I knew a lot about different roles within cybersecurity from recruiting for them. What I've built over my 20 years is the ability to speak to anyone of any level and to sort of get them to talk about what their challenges are. So in recruitment, typically, it's not so much the job spec. Well, what do you want the person to do? What do you want that to look like? How does that fit into the business? How is this person going to help the business grow or help the business defend itself? So I felt like I knew it was going to be a massive learning curve because I knew I'd be doing things I've never done before, like taking pen test scopes, obviously with a pen tester, and learning the acronyms, the technology, like how things piece together was fine because I started in IT recruitment. I understand the technology. Sometimes when we're doing engineering scoping calls, like after the SEAM, and they're talking about all the passive infrastructure, PCAPs, all this sort of stuff, I felt like I knew about that. I knew nothing. I knew nothing at all. I was literally Jon Snow. I knew nothing. I could ask enough questions to get someone talking, and then I'd just have to take notes and afterwards be like, right, what the hell is a PCAP? Like, what is... Why is it not called a packet capture? Even then, I was like Googling, what is a packet capture? But the amount that I've learned it's like 15 months now. So one of the things I'm going to do when I go out to Florida is we're getting involved in a tabletop exercise. And we're learning about like crisis comms, crisis response. When I listened in on the first DFIR call, so a customer had a breach, it was email compromise, a business email compromise. I'm just fascinated with how this happens. Yes. My skills and being able to talk to anyone and herding cats from organising conferences, herding cats in recruitment, understanding when something's going south, like someone's not giving you the full picture here. Okay, what's actually going on was very useful, very transferable. Being able to go into conferences, being able to talk at conferences, that's something that I've kind of developed. I've done more and more whilst I've been here and feeling confident. Like I could probably stand up and give a recruitment talk now still because I've done it for so long. The first few talks that I've done in sort of cybersecurity, it didn't feel like it was my words. I didn't feel like if someone questioned me, I kind of got a little bit of, I'm not going to say imposter syndrome, but that I don't know enough here. But actually, it's not my job to figure out like how to configure a firewall and like why someone's network's not working. It's my job to understand what their problem is. And sometimes they don't understand what their problem is. They know they want to do this. Well, why do you want to do this? How is this related back to the business? And those business skills and understanding how businesses operate, profit and loss, headcount, where does that fit? Understanding those business skills is great. It was really good from a transferable perspective because I've got some of the best techies to work with who will explain things to me and I can get on calls. From sales perspective, my product can't change its mind. Like if a customer wants to buy a pen test, that pen test isn't changing its mind. Whereas in recruitment, you don't get paid until someone starts. Sometimes they don't start, and they've had a 12-week notice period. Sometimes they start and they're really shit at the job. Well, the customer's not paying you then either. So you'd have really long processes, then your product would change its mind. Whereas in security, head of strategic solutions, so helping customers figure out what they need, putting the proposals together, getting those signed, and then it goes into service delivery, which isn't my job anymore. This feels like half a job from a sales perspective, but the variation. So some days I'm doing scoping calls with pen testers. Some days I'm talking to businesses about SOC services. Some days I'm designing a tabletop exercise, which is the reason I'm going out to do this. As I've said, I want to do tabletop exercise when I get involved in one. So I'm going to be the note keeper with everything that happens in the room. Some days we're helping businesses with compliance or helping businesses with a health check and understand where their gaps are. It's so varied. And actually those organisation skills in recruitment, when we had 10 jobs that we had to find people for, that's taught me very well in terms of being organised, and you've got to have notes and you've got to track things through a system. And when it comes to billing, you need a PO who's got the authority to give you a PO, and digging that out quite quickly. Does this person who's talking to us now who's got this problem, have they got the authority to spend? Or if they haven't, that's fine. But can they get the authority to spend? Can they get that person also on a call as we get further down the line? So those kind of skills have been really, really useful. But then I look back and feel like I've been in cyber forever. I mean, it's been 15, 16 months, but I haven't at all. And I've still got so much to do. I mean, I managed to speak on a panel at DEF CON in the Next Gen Village. That was my first DEF CON. I managed to speak as part of the hacking games. Caitlin Bowden was on that panel. Eva Ben was on that panel. And I'm like, holy shit. I mean, I'm speed running. But no, I am loving what I'm doing. And hopefully, I have got 2 young kids. I've got a 4-year-old and I've got a 9-year-old. Hopefully, I'm also a bit of an advocate or a bit of an example of, even if you have children, even if you have children that rely on you, there's no reason not to try in a cybersecurity career, because it can be amazing.
I was going to have a follow-up, which is, are you enjoying it? But you clearly are.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm still organising B-Sides Lancashire, B-Sides Leeds, so I still do that, 2600. My husband occasionally does say to me, am I going to see you? What month is good? Not this one. Thankfully, I've got a really supportive family. If you're going to do something, you're going to throw yourself at it, right? You're going to do something 100%. There's no point half-arsing something. That's always been my motto. So, and my kids, they know that mummy works in cyber. They know that, I will help them with their tech questions. And I think it's really important as a role model for them to see that mums do go out to work. Sometimes it is dad's picking you up. Sometimes mummy is working late or mummy's working away. It doesn't have to be, oh, mum should be at home and dad's go out to work. And my children grow up knowing that, yeah, my mummy is a hacker. I'm not quite, but yeah, I do solve problems. So maybe I am.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. I want to end the interview with a question on recruiting. I'm sorry, but
no, it's fine.
20 years in recruiting, have to kind of ask. So there are obviously a lot of people trying to enter the industry without degrees these days. Mm-hmm. Do you think the recruiting landscape is going to evolve to favor cybersecurity related certs over the more traditional degrees in the future?
I feel like if I was starting out, I would not do a degree. I would do an apprenticeship, or I'd do, I'd do some certs. I'd probably look to do an apprenticeship. In the UK, you can do a degree apprenticeship and earn money for over 4 years. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't come back later to do a degree if I wanted to do a master's in something, if there's something I really wanted to do. But just because you have a degree, and some do computer science degree, some do a cybersecurity degree, you've really got to know that's what you want to do. And for me, I'd rather get stuck in and work and figure that out as part of that journey. But saying that, I do look back and say, wouldn't it have been fun to go to uni for 3 years? It depends. If you want to go into threat intelligence or malware research, there isn't really certs that will do that. There'll be degrees that would have modules on that could offer you, if you are doing a degree, definitely get an internship. 100% you need to be from year one. If you want to, there are certain companies that offer really good internships. one of the guys who now helps us with 2600 is part of the crew now. He's not going to say the company, but he's at a good company. He's done his degree. He did an internship. He's on ridiculous money, but he's doing malware research and he's really insanely smart. And that's all that he's wanted to do. So yes, there are some instances where if you know exactly what you want to do, but you want to be a pen tester, you don't have to do a degree. Start on Try Hack Me, go on to Hack the Box, try and get your OSCP, keep trying harder, as they say. But that is a route for pen testing. You don't need a degree to do pen testing. If you want to be a SOC analyst, you can do training, you can do Blue Team Labs, use things like Security Onion, build Wazoo, start playing around, have a little home lab, and go down that route. Some CTF, some businesses now, well, GCHQ in the UK, if you crack a CTF, you'll get an interview. But also some of the big companies that hire will follow those same methodologies. They'll have a CTF, a challenge that you can do, and you can learn in your own environment. Not everyone, if you've got ADHD, if you're neurospicy in certain times, not everyone's going to pass an exam. That's not the right environment for them. And this industry does attract a lot of people who are neurospicy. But then by going out to communities, finding your tribe, you'll find where other people like you work and thrive. And it's not just getting that job, it's thriving when you get there and finding those inclusive companies. I think DEI there are some companies that are really good, are really inclusive, but that's where having those whisper networks, which sometimes those networking communities are, you'll find out that company treats staff like shit. You don't want to work there. That company's toxic. It's great for work there for a year. You're going to burn out. Work there for a year, get all the certs, then get out of there before you turn insane. And we all know those sorts of places. And that's where sometimes if you come in without a network, you might get burned with some really shit employers that aren't going to look after you. But if you've got that support network, you can at least go into some of those companies with your eyes wide open, knowing what you're going into and hearing other people's experiences.
Yeah, great advice. Amazing.
I will admit, there's some things I miss out in recruitment, and it's the people. And that's why I'm still very much involved in community, involved in CAPSLOCK, mentoring, because I do want to give other people the opportunities that I've had. 20 years recruitment, like you say, it's insane. I think I loved it. That was the thing. I loved it. I was good at it. A few recruiters have gone in-house. In the UK, there's some really good recruiters that I would still recommend. If you're going to talk to a recruiter, ask them what are the last 5 roles that they filled? What are the job titles? If they're filling IT roles or they're not specialist, now that doesn't mean they can't get you a job, but they're going to get you a job with the companies they always hire for. They're not specialists known in that area. So yeah, but there's probably 2 or 3 companies that I'd shout out in the UK that are really good is InfoSec People and LT Harper. Both really good specialist cyber recruiters. They would be ones that I would definitely be recommending. I don't know in the US. I think Ricky Burke in the US. I know his name. He's a pen test recruiter, isn't he? He's probably way more than a pen test recruiter. I probably just completely don't know many US recruiters, but UK would definitely be those ones.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll add the links in the video description for those as well. Rosie, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your knowledge and experiences with everybody. If people want to follow you online, where are the best places to go?
I am on LinkedIn. I'm Lady Cyber Rosie. I have the same handle on everything from Discord to X. Might not be on X for much longer, Blue Sky, and also LinkedIn. So it's Lady Cyber Rosie. That is my handle, which I was given that name by one of my old recruitment bosses. He was you could be the Lady of Cyber. And I'm okay, I'll take that. Yeah, it's just stuck and I just can't change it now. Yeah. So yeah, I'm on all of those things.
Amazing. All right. Well, go follow Rosie. And again, thank you so much for joining me.
I hope it's been helpful. Thank you.